August 11th, 1998. Brian walked up to Crystal's home. He had recognized Crystal's name instantly when Alex had informed him he may have solved his secretary problems. Brian was amused to find that Crystal's last name was still Matthews. Had her aunt succeeded, or was Crystal just a modern-day girl who didn't take her husband's name? Ding dong! Crystal answered the door with a pleasant smile and, "Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day the Lord has given to us, isn't it?" "Yes, very grand indeed." Brian knew instantly he wanted Crystal for his secretary. "My name is Brian White. I work for King of the Sluice Incorporated. I'm looking for a new secretary, and I understand you have been looking for a job." Crystal drew her breath not willing to breathe lest she break the spell of what just happened. Did she hear right? Did he really just offer her a job? Recovering from the shock, she asked amusedly, "Are you my fairy godmother?" "Something like that." Brian laughed as he handed her a letter. "This is from my boss, Alex King. It explains the rules of our organization and what we expect in our employees." Crystal's hopes were dashed. Was this going to be another letdown? Were there rules on this list like the one that had spoiled her chance of getting an accounting job yesterday? The interviewer had asked her if she would be willing to say the signed check she had in front of her on her desk was still on her boss's desk, not signed yet, because the boss wanted to hold up the check a little longer before sending it out. Chris said no, that would be lying. Of course she hadn't gotten the job. Crystal took the letter and said, "I'll read them and let you know if I can abide by them." "That will be fine. Before I go, can I ask you a personal question?" "Sure." "Whatever happened to your fiancé, David Armstrong?" "David? How do you know about David and I?" "Your aunt asked me to check him out for her. How is she?" "She died in February." "Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. She was a very nice lady." "Yes, she was. I miss her terribly, but I'll see her again on Resurrection Day." "Yes, that's the blessed hope of the born-again Christian." "Are you a born-again Christian, Brian?" "Yes, I am. I have been since September 4th, 1995. My boss, Alex King, paid me a surprise visit on Labor Day that year, and by the time he left, I knew I wanted to be like him. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk." "Did you say Alex King is your boss?" "That's right." "The Alex King that writes articles for Pilgrimage?" "Yes. So do you know him? And you know about Pilgrimage too?" "Well, I've read his articles, but to say I know him is an understatement." Crystal thought back to the time she hated Alex King for misjudging her by saying to Dan it was all her fault what happened between Jasper and herself. She had come to believe he could have been just as fooled as she had been when it came to knowing Jasper White, so she didn't hate him quite so bad. However, it still hurt her that he had felt that way about her back then. He surely must have gotten over his contempt for her to be offering her a job. She would read his rules and then see if the broken bridges of the past could be mended. Crystal said goodbye to Brian. She certainly would like to work with Brian. He was so congenial and talked so easily about his love for the Lord and his way. Crystal couldn't wait to see what the boss of King of the Sluice Incorporated had to say. Dear potential employee, in order to become an employee of King of the Sluice Incorporated, you must adhere to the following rules. 1. There will be no forbidden food allowed on the property owned by King of the Sluice Incorporated. Each time you are caught disobeying this rule, your pay will be docked 5% of your gross income from off the paycheck for the 2-week period in which you are caught. This is because you have fallen from King of the Sluice Incorporated's good graces. If you break the rules 10 times, you will be dismissed. 2. There will be no alcoholic beverages on the property owned by King of the Sluice Incorporated. If you violate this rule, you will be dismissed immediately. 3. There will be no smoking on the property of King of the Sluice Incorporated. You violate this rule, and the 5% paycheck docking will apply as above in rule number 1, as well as the 10 times rule. 4. You will follow the golden rule with fellow employees as well as with customers. My last name may be King, but in my company it is the King of Kings that has the final say in all disputes. 5. Before starting work each day, 1 chapter of the Bible is required reading. If you like to pray as well, that's your choice. If you can abide by these rules, I would like to welcome you aboard as part of our team, which is trying to make this world a place where Satan is bound and thrown into the bottomless pit. In Christ's love and service, Alexander King, head of King of the Sluice Incorporated. Crystal's heart burned. She could not abide by these rules as they were written. If she worked for King of the Sluice Incorporated, rules number 1 and 3 were going to have to be changed to 0 tolerance like rule number 2. She called Brian up immediately and shared with him her concerns about rules number 1 and rules number 3 and why she had them. Brian said he talked to Alex about changing the rules, as he could see her reasons for the change were 100% Christ-like.